I want you to think of one of the most mysterious characters in One Piece. Someone who we've been waiting to see in action for almost 1,000 chapters. It's a man that is hyped up to be one of the worst criminals in the entire story. This person is none other than Monkey D. Dragon, the leader of the infamous Revolutionary Army, which is currently taking the world by storm after recent developments in the manga. However, even though he's the father of our main protagonist, we still haven't seen much of Dragon himself. One of the things we do know, however, is that he seems to have the ability to create gusts of wind and somewhat manipulate the weather, leading many fans to believe that Dragon has a devil fruit power. After the Wano arc, where we saw so many powerful mythical zones in action, there's been a widespread belief that Monkey D. Dragon had to be one as well. This could be the case, but I'm of a different mindset. I definitely think Oda has already given us many hints leading us towards what his devil fruit actually is, which is a wind logia. The evidence for this lies in his parallels to Sabo, the patterns and structure of the story, and the abilities Dragon has shown thus far. All of these things point to why I believe that Dragon currently holds one of the most powerful logias of all, the ability to become the wind itself. Before I get into the details though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more One Piece theories. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the first reason behind this theory, the correlation between Monkey D. Dragon and his second in command, Sabo. Sabo is one of the most intriguing characters in the story right now. Not only does he play the role of Luffy's brother, but he's also the number 2 of the Revolutionary Army, second to Monkey D. Dragon. The most interesting part about this, however, is how much these two characters parallel each other throughout the story. Dragon and Sabo were both raised in the Goa Kingdom and hated the way nobles ruled. They also both wished to change this kingdom and the world itself. Furthermore, the two of them most likely went on different paths against their father's wishes, and it's heavily implied that both Sabo and Dragon himself are masters of the Ryosoken fighting style. With all these similarities between the two, and knowing that Sabo is now a Logia type user as well, would it not make sense for Dragon to also be a Logia user himself? You see, if Sabo is a fire type Logia, and in a way the personification of the flames of rebellion, it would be fitting for Dragon to be a wind type Logia, representing the winds of change. After all, fire and wind are two sides of the same coin. Even now in the story, we see that Sabo's influence has spread like wildfire and is taking the world by storm, even being dubbed as the Flame Emperor because of his attack on the Holy Land. Since this was most likely orchestrated by Dragon, you can symbolize this as the invisible wind stoking the inferno that is the 8-Nation Revolution, which has the world government on the back foot. We also know that this very rebellion is most likely what caused Lelouch, a member of this 8-Nation Revolution, to be wiped off the map by none other than Imu. Since Dragon knows that this was Sabo's last known location before transmissions were cut off by the attack, I believe that now is the time for Dragon to act, and we will finally be able to see his Logia powers in action in the near future. This brings us towards our next piece of evidence, Dragon's abilities. During the Logtown arc, where we're first introduced to Monkey D. Dragon, a storm and rapid winds come almost out of nowhere, coincidentally the same time Dragon is on the island. Then, when Luffy is about to be executed by Buggy, a lightning bolt hits his sword, destroying the platform and saving Luffy. Now this is most likely Dragon's doing, because Luffy being rubber and also being saved by lightning in this manner is almost too coincidental. Now I know what you're thinking. How would a wind Logia be able to influence lightning? Well, if you know a thing or two about weather and science, you would know that strong winds can bring in storm clouds from surrounding areas, and that even stronger winds can create an effect called ribbon lightning that causes lightning to be manipulated in different directions, and even allowing it to strike twice in close proximity. So, in the world of One Piece, where science is definitely more loose and free, we can assume that this would be easily possible for Dragon if he were a wind Logia. Even later in the arc, we can see that when Smoker captures Luffy, Dragon enters the scene by stopping Smoker's sea stone weapon. The thing is, however, I want you to pay close attention to where Dragon holds it. He stops Smoker by holding the handle, the furthest part from the sea stone tip. This may be Oda's way of giving us even more indication that Dragon is in fact a Devil Fruit user. After this, Luffy and Smoker are both sent flying by a huge gust of wind. This is almost too controlled and direct to not be on purpose. If you may however think that this is a coincidence as well, and that he can't control the wind, then let's turn our attention towards the Luffy flashback after Marineford. After the nobles of the Goa Kingdom set fire to the Great Terminal, a gust of wind opens up a path for the citizens directly towards Dragon and the revolutionaries. This level of wind is almost too precise and controlled to be a simple weather phenomenon or coincidence. In fact, wind is almost always something we see associated with Monkey D. Dragon. When we see him save Sabo from the shipwreck caused by the celestial dragons, wind envelops the both of them as we see his furious face. Even when we see Dragon get back to his ship with Sabo in his arms, he enters with a gust of wind and seems like he was floating down to the deck. Now, assuming that this is a wind Logi ability, it just shows you the benefits this fruit would have. Imagine Dragon being able to cause storms and other wind-based natural disasters like hurricanes, whirlpools, and tornadoes. By being able to become wind itself, it would even be possible for Dragon to become invisible to the naked eye, something that would fit such a mysterious character like himself, and would also explain how he happens to just pop up out of nowhere at times. I can't even begin to imagine the possibilities of powers that an awakened Wind Logia would be able to use, but it would definitely be something broken, which would also give justification to Monkey D. Dragon being such a threat in the world of One Piece. Finally, I'd like to get into why I'm so set on this being a Logia type, rather than a Paramecia or a mythical zone, which is all thanks to the patterns and structure of the story so far. Patterns in One Piece have always given us small hints for the direction of the story, and they play a large part in how Oda likes to structure the world itself. Take the makeup of the Yonkos at the start of the time skip for example. They include a Paramecia type, a Zone type, a non-Devil Fruit user, and a Logia type. Even after 2 of them have been defeated, the current 4 Emperors have the same structure. Now, let's relate this to how we can figure out what type of Devil Fruit Monkey D. Dragon has. If you look at how the recent saga and arcs in One Piece have been structured so far, you can see that there's been a constant theme and pattern running in the major arcs that we've gotten so far. In the Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island arcs, the major antagonists Luffy fought both held powerful awakened Paramecias that pushed our main character to the very brink. Even if you look at the makeups of both of these antagonist pirate crews, you would notice that most of them are entirely made up of Paramecia Devil Fruit users. From off-the-wall hacks abilities like Sugar's, all the way to eerily creepy abilities like Mondor's. These arcs were centered entirely around the Paramecia class. In the next major arc, however, we became focused on a different class entirely, the Zone Devil Fruit. Even though this arc had 0 standard Zone users, we dive into every other type in this category, from the bizarre and zany Smile Fruit users, to the tough and formidable ancient zones that caused the Straw Hats trouble in the second act of the arc. This eventually led to the rare mythical zones that were showcased in the final act, which were honestly my personal favorites, because they were so diverse and powerful in comparison to the previous types. Even Luffy, who we thought was a Paramecia type, was actually in fact a mythical zone the entire time. So to tie this all in with why I don't think Dragon will be a Paramecia or even a mythical zone type, it's because it's all been done before. If you're paying attention to where the main story of One Piece is going, and how the narrative usually has patterns that give us hints to what we're going to see next, you would notice that Logias are being placed back into the forefront of the story. Characters like Green Bull, Sabo, Kuzan, Akainu, and even Blackbeard himself are making moves in the final saga. In the Egghead arc, we were shown that even Vegapunk, the greatest genius in the entire story, couldn't find a way to recreate a Logia user. This is immediately followed by confirmation that Admiral Kizaru, another Logia type, is on his way to the island and is probably going to be the main obstacle for the Straw Hats in this arc. Going even deeper into this, we've already seen Paramecia and even Zone Awakenings. It wouldn't be crazy to believe that Kizaru would be our first glance at an awakened Logia user in this arc, therefore creating even more hype for the rest of the other Logia users, including Dragon himself. To summarize everything, I believe that Oda has given us more than enough hints and evidence to come to the conclusion that Monkey D. Dragon is in fact a wind type Logia user, and that this will probably be shown after we get to see Kizaru be the first on-screen Logia awakening. I can't wait to see just how exactly Dragon will use this power and what his next move will be in the future of One Piece. One question I'd like to extend to you all in the comments is, do you think we'll get to see Dragon arrive at Egghead Island? I personally hope so. Also, if you stuck around until the end, make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss my next theory coming soon. Later.